Hello, everyone. We'll just wait for a minute. And yes, the time is up. It's 5 o'clock. I welcome you all in this live session today. This is going to be our 11th live session. And as our course has been of the duration of 12 weeks, and this is the week 11th, which will be going now. And, past few weeks, we have been conducting the problem solving sessions, and each of this session had week specific contents which was pertaining to the different lectures and modules. And how we have been progressing was, uh, we would first, the learners are expected to go through the content week-wise, understand the content, and attempt their assignment. I mean, there is always a buffer period between, the final date of assignment and before that, we usually have this problem solving live session. So the idea remains that, if in the content or if, you have some kind of doubt regarding the understanding of the content or any technical issue is there, or in past, you have encountered a question which you think that it might have a different point of view or a different perspective. These live sessions are really helpful in order to raise those kind of questions, so that we try and discuss it with the participants, and we try to think aloud and try to attempt these questions once again. As I've already told you that today is our second last session. Given the fact that we have been meeting each week, once once a week, and the duration of the course has been, as I mentioned, around 12 weeks. Close to 3 months or so. So the course started in July end, and it's going to be ending in this particular month of October. And we have gone through each week's content, and we have seen the kind of richness the course has offered and provided, right from the learnings of the different entrepreneurs, people who are co-founders, who shared their mistakes, their challenges, and their suggestions for the upcoming entrepreneurs. Then we also looked at the aspect of different incubation centers, hand-holding centers, which can actually one can avail in terms of how to go about establishing a startup or a venture. And they help in different aspects, right from mentoring you, connecting you with the right people, helping you frame your problem statement, emphasizing on certain aspects of customer discovery, so that your proposition is solid enough so that you make a great start, right? After that, in the late few sessions, week 10th, 11th, 12th, these are primarily into how one can progress in the germination stage. So if you have seen the week 11th lecture, the module has been primarily about how the master students of design at IIT Hyderabad, they formed teams with diverse members with having diverse backgrounds. They all formed together different teams, and they were, they're going to pitch certain ideas to the industry people, to the academic mentors. And this, as well as the next week content, is basically about the feedback they are getting from the people who are there in the field, and who are quite relevant to the project area which they are working on. So I think it was a very rich, lecture content, especially the week 11, because it tells you about, how these students did their customer discovery, what methods and research methods they utilized in terms of identifying, and generating the insights, be it interviews, be it, going there and asking the parents and the various stakeholders, depending upon their respective work, and then coming out with some kind of a solution, and then some kind of a physical or a tangible output, whether it's a product based thing or whether it's a service based thing, and even within the product based thing, whether it is a physical product or whether it is a digital product, or even whether it is a phygital product, which basically means it's a mix of uh, the physical aspects as well as the digital aspect, right? Say, for example, if you're coming up with a new design of a smartphone and you're also working on the interface part of it, then it becomes a phygital product because you're working on the form factor of the mobile phone as well as the interface part of it. So that's a phygital product. So all these teams, they basically were pitching their business proposition. They presented their business model canvas, and what kind of offering they are having, what kind of customers they are targeting, what are the different revenue streams which they can actually visualize at this particular instant. And then finally, it was followed by the crits and the feedback and the suggestions by people who are there, with lots and lots of experience, who are there, who are relevant to your particular field. And then they are suggesting, what could be done, where, could be the pitfalls, what are the areas which needs to be strengthened with respect to each and every group. So all those sessions were very rich, very enlightening. And I think all those teams, I think, would have found value in whatever feedback was offered by all these respected members who had come as a part of a feedback, jury. And the same kind of topology of content will be delivered the next week as well in the week 12th lecture, because it's an entire batch which is forming different groups. And all these groups are presenting their propositions. So right from groups who are working on people who are visually impaired and visually challenged, to the group where they think that how they can handle, or how they can address the issue of what do you call the office people and the stress which they are currently suffering from. And then there is a very different age group wherein how you can generate love and fun towards subjects like mathematics. Okay. And and there is one towards the meditation part of it. So there are different flavors of the domains which all these groups are working on. And it's really enriching to see the kind of progress they have made in very very small period of time, which even the expert panels also had acknowledged. So I think from that perspective, as a learner, we can learn and we can, derive a lot of value from all these lectures and videos. So the week 11 assignment was also live, and there is a last date to submit, which is 11th of October this month. So we still have 4 days left, and going ahead, we will be, coming to our very last session of, week 12, which will be, the penultimate session, and the last course content we'll be discussing, and the live session will be happening. There is a possibility that we, have one more session of 1 hour duration. The date and time will be shared soon by the NPTEL team. And now this proposition is something which I'll propose the NPTEL team. And if it gets materialized, probably we'll have one more session after the week 12 session. So after the 12 sessions, there will be one complementary session, but that is subject to the kind of how we materialize that particular session. So before I begin, let me just take a heads up on the learners who have joined in. Hello, Bhavna, if you're there, could you share, I mean, what has been and how it has been for you?
Hello, sir.
Hey,
Sir, this week actually I could actually go through some of the content.
nice.
So I found it interesting क्योंकि थोड़ा practical implementation दिख रहा था तो it's
जी,
not just case studies from well established companies या startups. मतलब this was something from scratch or I mean क्योंकि आगे future में अगर I am planning
So I think I
Uh,
am so sorry there was some issue. Yeah, please go ahead.
yeah, I think I was the only one. Okay, okay. So, I was saying कि क्योंकि ये स्क्रैच से कुछ चीज़ बनती हुई दिख रही है, तो यू नो इट्स अ गुड मोटिवेशन कि अगर इन फ्यूचर मुझे कुछ करना है तो आई कैन सिंपली रेफर दिस सेशन एंड you know it may help at any point. And maybe because I haven't gone through completely, so but I found it interesting जितना भी I could uh, go through.
Yes, yes. So even you will find the week 12 session also equally enriching, because in that as well there are different teams of the master students who have, been grouped together, and they are working on some very interesting and exciting projects. So I believe that if you go through the another week contents as well, I think it would be equally
Okay.
valuable, for you in terms of your future endeavors.
Okay, sir.
Great, great. So what I've done today is that, usually we were having the introductory protocol, and then the set of questions, and then a recap, and then the discussion forum questions. So today I've just, shifted, rather than shifted, swapped will be a better word. So I've swapped the, positioning of the sections. So today we'll be having that introductory thing at the beginning, followed by the content recap. Because till now I've also realized that many a times the learners are hesitant to join the live session because they are not, or they have not gone through the content, and that is quite a reason that, we could see a less number of participants. So what I've done is that, instead of having content recap at the end, I have shifted the content recap prior to the set of 10 questions, so that even if you have not gone through the entire content, and if you go through that particular slides of content recap, one can actually get a fair idea about, what was the lecture about. And, through that understanding, one can even attempt the questions, the set of 10 questions, which we plan to have, and take and seek opinions from our learners. So I think let's try this approach as well. And if it works out, probably, going further, and even, after the name, me taking up few more NPTEL courses, I think, I can work on that aspect of, making our presentations more enriching, and more meaningful to our learners, so that they don't feel bad about not, going through the content, and being exposed to certain set of questions which probably they have no background of. So I think that might help our learners. What do you think, Bhavna? Could do you think that this could be a better way
Yes,
of,
it will
approaching?
be very helpful because every time, whenever you ask, I'm either I have gone through the content partially or not at all. So, this is actually great, even for us to understand the session.
Yeah, yeah. So even I've realized that, even other learners, so for them to attempt a question, or even to say that, this might be right, it becomes very challenging if they have not gone through the complete video. And usually these lecture contents are quite large. I mean, if you see the week 11th video content, it was approximately, even in fact, more than 2 hours of recording. So, paying that kind of an attention and being absorbed into that for that long duration is is challenging for all of us, I believe. So I think this approach could actually address a lot of issues. And going further, I think that hesitation part of the learners would also go, while they are expected to speak out, what could be the right answer, what is your thought process, so if they've gone through the content, and if they could see the slides, I think that it will be quite an helpful thing. So let us try it out today, and we'll see, how it goes about, and we can then, proceed further in our sessions in that particular fashion. So I'll be sharing my screen, and then we'll be going ahead with our week 11 live session. Yes. So just give me a heads up when you are able to see my screen, the entire screen, and
Yes, sir. I can see.
it's visible.
Yes.
Okay, great, great. Thank you so much. All right. So, hello everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you. We have now entered our very final stages of our, this 12-week course. Our journey has been quite long, and after this, there will be, one or two sessions more for this particular course on understanding incubation and entrepreneurship. And the course instructor is Professor V.K. Chakravarti sir, who is from the IDC School of Design, IIT Bombay, and he has also been very active member at the Design Innovation Center at IIT Bombay. My name is Abhishek. I am currently a research scholar, and in past I have worked at companies like Infosys, Think Design, and I've also been into teaching, where I've taught at design institutions at various places. And I also had a brief instant at a startup of my own. And after that, I realized that probably, a little more research would really help me going further. So currently I'm pursuing my PhD at IIT Roorkee. So today is 7th of October, and let's proceed to our next slide. Okay, so the general agenda goes like, we are here to help you, in the current run of courses. So there could be issues with respect to the understanding of content, with respect to the marking of certain questions. There could be discrepancy in your understanding, and the kind of assessment has been done in the past assignments. So there could be a lot of questions, there could be a lot of queries, which basically we can address in these live sessions. As I've mentioned previously as well, that the intent of the initial few minutes is to gain an understanding of from the learners, wherein we talk, we discuss, how is it going, how far they've reached, if they're facing any issues in terms of understanding the content, or in terms of attempting the questions. So the initial few minutes are there more like a generating a kind of a comfort level in the online classroom. And then this is followed by a protocol session, wherein I go through a certain set of pointers which are repeated every week, considering the aspect and experience that a new learner can join in any of these sessions. Okay, so from the perspective of a new learner, one should always gain the same amount of knowledge as that of any other previous sessions, and hence these initial set of slide deck is something which is repetitive, but it is important for anybody who is new to this particular session. So we discuss and solve week specific assignments. So to make you understand, as we have already seen that there are 12 weeks in this particular course. So for every week, there has been certain set of assignments, and that's how we have been conducting the live session for each particular week specific content. Okay. So, and one thing which is important to note is that these set of 10 questions are other than the live assignment. Okay. See, the thing is that the live assignment, which is there in your NPTEL portal for which you are being marked, is something which pertains to your assessment. Okay. Your assessment, your understanding of how you have perceived the content, how you have understood the content. And then there's an evaluation, because it sums up to your internal assessment. Okay, so what we are referring to as 10 set of question is something which are other than those 10 questions. So this could be from the past few lectures, or this could be something which pertains to the week specific content. Okay, so not essentially the questions which are there live, because that would mean something very very different. Okay, so we are not attempting the live assignment question, but we are attempting a set of 10 questions which are related to the week specific content and will help you in terms of attempting the live assignment questions. Okay, we also try to respond to queries and questions which are posted on discussion forum. we have been doing this since all our live sessions. There have been some interesting questions. There have been certain interesting observations which had required certain intervention. And in this particular session as well, I'll inform about certain pointer which is being taken up by the NPTEL team, and probably we'll all hear about that particular question very soon. So I'll be discussing a very, very brief bit about that as well. And finally, there is a content recap of ongoing week. So, like I mentioned, in the beginning, this is something which I'll be trying so that the learners don't feel have a different perspective in terms of, even if they have not gone through the lecture content, they have something to see, they have something to gain, and then they can make a informed, attempt while we are going through that 10 set of questions. Okay, so this is something related to the ethics. We would want all of you to keep your mic on mute. The idea is that we record these sessions for YouTube. We are uploading these sessions on YouTube, essentially for the fact that we don't see a lot of learners attending and participating in the live sessions, and that could be for many reasons, like they might have their submissions, they might have their classes, and from a professional point of view, obviously there could be certain deadlines, engagements, and then there is a lot of a number of factors. So we do empathize with all our learners, and for their benefit, what we are doing is we conduct these live sessions. Even if there are no learners, we'll be sitting there. So even within that 5 to 7 duration, if somebody joins some me, I'll be there to address their questions. And even if they get time after 7 p.m., they can actually visit the YouTube link and go through the entire live session. Okay. So yes, obviously you can unmute yourself if you're responding to a question, or if you have any doubt or a query. And however, I always suggest that one should use discussion forum as a platform. And within discussion forum, if you see, this is how you are able to post a question. So ask a question is the feature which has been given by the NPTEL platform. The moment one puts a question here, it gets live to the entire learner community. Now, when I say entire learner community, it is basically the course specific learner community, which means that all of those who are a part of this course get access to what has been posted. This also mean that there are few members from the NPTEL team who are monitoring the content, and they also have me as a individual who is conducting the live session. So there are three stakeholders involved in this discussion forum. So so if a question is pertaining to technical aspect, probably the NPT team can take it up. If it is about a content understanding of a question or answer, I can take it up. Sometimes even the learners actually help in addressing questions. So they also take active part, and they also try to address the questions posted. So although that particular aspect has been not seen that evidently, but I suggest that it is a great platform so that you can also post your views, and it becomes a much more of a collaborative environment. Okay, right. Great. So we have been talking about where the courses are going, and how the it's being made live. So there is a YouTube channel, and one can go through our entire set of past 10 live sessions which are uploaded in YouTube in this particular link. There is also Google Drive. It basically contains the annotated files of presentation. So if one wants to go through the slide deck, this can be an interesting area to look upon all the past PPT is in PDF format. Okay. And how do you access it? I mean, there is a link which is problem solving session. Uh, you'll be seeing July 2023. When you click here, you'll go to a page which will mention click here or link kind of a thing. If you click there, you will be leading to an Excel sheet, and this Excel sheet will have week wise. Okay. Week-wise YouTube link as well as one common folder which pertains to all our presentation deck. Okay. So this is how you'll be able to access both the recording as well as this annotated PDF. So annotation basically means all these scribbling and doodling which we are doing to make our users understand. So for every question and even for the entire presentation, we try to scribble, we try to, uh, help us understand in more of a blackboard kind of an environment, which is more of a digital, way of explaining things and, digital way of, uh, you know, working around. Okay. So the preview is, I think everybody would be now quite confident about the term and the name of the course. It is Understanding Incubation and Entrepreneurship. Course instructor is Professor V.K. Chakravarti sir, and the course is being taken with a lot and lots of people with great background experiences and being at very, very highly important places. So these people are there. They have their lectures here. So it's a very great course. It's amazing with lots of learning if you are into entrepreneurship and incubation. As I mentioned, it is a 12-week course. Today we are at week 11, and the last date to submit week 11 said assignment is 11th of October. So you've still got 4 days left. The examination date is 28th of October. Okay, so this is the screen which you'll see if you click on the progress bar. You basically see your progress. You can actually it's a kind of a place wherein you reflect upon what all progress you have made in terms of viewing the content and completing your assignments. You'll be also able to see the marking and the valuation for each and every assignment which you have submitted. Okay, so this is a place where you can actually reflect upon. You can see how you have been progressing, how well you have been progressing. There could be certain ups and downs, which is quite obvious. I think no need to worry about it. But it basically helps you, in order to assess, your placement in terms of how well you are performing the course. Okay. So this is something quite clear. The course is free. So whoever is interested to learn about entrepreneurship and incubation, you can just register and you can log in and you can go through the content. However, if you want a certificate, you will have to sit for an examination. You have to pay a nominal fee of 1,000 rupees. The examination's scheduled for 20. I'm so sorry. It was the last date for registration. So it has already gone past by. It was obviously extended for multiple times, but then it has not been further extended. Okay. Let me tell you this part of the screen. So there are certain criterias in order to gain a certificate. Okay. So criteria says that there is a internal, external, and total sum. So internal assessment, which means that best 8 assignments out of 12 will be taken. So you have got great leverage, great flexibility in terms of attempting questions. Even if 1 or 2 assignments doesn't go that well, the remaining assignments can actually make up for that. And the weightage given to it is 25%. And there is an internal clause that you need to score more than 10 out of 25 to be able to get the certificate. For external, it will be one exam, which will be a proctored exam. It has given a weightage of 75%. Here, you need to score more than 30 marks. Okay. And then the total, which is the final and total exam score. You know, even if one of the two criteria is not met, you will not get a certificate, even if it is greater than 40. Okay. So you need to meet this, you need to meet this, and obviously you will be able to meet this. So there could be scenario that somebody scores 8, somebody scores 40 and becomes 48. But then since you are not breaching and you're not scoring more than 10, you won't get a certificate. Okay. So these are some intricate details, certain, inbuilt criterias in order to make sure that you participate in the lecture, you participate in these assignments, and you kind of take the most of these courses. All right. Now, this is basically a week-wise, progress, how we have progressed from introduction to entrepreneurship and to handholding of entrepreneurship to the method of innovation, understanding few case studies and IT students project, then coming to healthcare and innovation segment, to human-centered innovation, to humanizing technology, to various incubators, and then, talking about the incubation facilities at IT Hyderabad, from there to, corporate to entrepreneurship, and then finally to our week 11, which is primarily about startup projects presentation by IT Hyderabad and their students. So this lecture is pertained to that particular zone, wherein these students are being grouped into different member teams and having different background, and then they are pitching a business proposition. Okay. So ALM includes certain additional learning materials, which has case studies from Shiro's, Mama, Sipalika, and then there are set of 10, inspiring stories of, female entrepreneurs. So if you have got time, I think these are very, very enriching. You'll be able to understand, what was the turning point of these entrepreneurs, how and what was the challenge they faced, and how were they able to, set up, such a big name, whether it is Mama Earth or, whether it is the Kalari Capitals or, Zivami. So all these examples are mentioned in these learning materials. So if you've got time and interest, please go through them. Okay. So these are the two typology of questions. So there is one topology in which only one answer is correct, and the other typology is that more than one answer is correct. Okay. I believe by now everybody would be very, very clear on that. So this only one option could be selected. Here I can select multiple options. Okay, great. Now this is a very interesting slide, and I always give certain time to this slide because initially there were a lot of apprehensions about how and we go about marking. So let me explain to you. So if there is a question like, okay, so just assume that this is the question, that which of the below are present in New Delhi? Qutub Minar, Delhi Heart, India Gate, Gateway of India. All right. Now, the scenario one says that I select option A, B, and C. Okay. So I've chosen A, B, and C, which are the correct answers. So if all the correct answers are chosen, I'll get full marks. All right. Let's look at scenario two. This is the scenario two. If at least one incorrect answer has been chosen, then no marks. Okay. For example, if I select A, C, and D. So I've chosen D as well. Okay. So which is an incorrect. Let's say no marks. And then you've got scenario three, which says if only correct answers are chosen, but not all correct answers are chosen, then partial marks. For example, if I select B and C, so I've not selected A. Okay. So this is missing, but I've selected the B and C, which are the correct ones. Okay. Here I'll be getting partial marks. I think it is quite clear. The example holds good, and we are able to understand that what is the marking scenario and how the marks are being given to the learners. By now, if you have seen your assignment and the previous assignment and assessment, I think it is quite evident and clear that how you need to attempt the questions in order to gain the correct marks and how you have been evaluated up till now. Okay, so now from here, this is basically something which I've shifted. I've swapped with the set of questions. So we have got the content recap first, and then we go about, answering and attempting the questions. So in this particular session, we had invitees from IIT Delhi, who was Professor PVM Rao, and he's a professor at the mechanical department of IIT Delhi, and he has also been the head at Department of Design, and he is also an active player, an active playing a very active role at Design Innovation Center at IIT Delhi. So this was the first team which was seen together as the name suggests it's about seeing something visual. Okay, so this was the team, and this was their professors who were guiding them, who were mentoring them, and they had a mission. Okay, so their mission was to come up with a physical or a digital product for blind and visually impaired, which will be assisting them in their day-to-day activities. So they took up the segment of blind and visually impaired, and that was the area they identified that they want to work in this particular sector. They could come up initially, that was the idea that वो कुछ भी बना सकते हैं, वो फिजिकल प्रोडक्ट भी हो सकता है, वो डिजिटल प्रोडक्ट भी हो सकता है ना. दैट इज हाउ यूजुअली यू बिगेन. You don't have that clarity in mind when you are starting a project. You probably have a area defined, and as you venture into it, as you do your customer discovery, as you deep dive into that area, you start realizing that this is something which my audience might be able to use it efficiently. It might be working for them, and then you can go on devising it, detailing it. Okay. So this is how they had produced their concept, which is about seeing together. Now let me briefly explain you how it is. So say for example there is a visually impaired user, and that user is needs help in terms of understanding what kind of dress he or she is looking at. So what the app does is that it connects you with a person who is very much there, and who will act as your eye. Okay, so which means that you'll be assisted with sighted volunteers through a live video call. So say for example, I am the volunteer. I would tell that it's a green dress. It's a sleeveless dress, and probably it had multicolor motifs. The motifs are that of birds, and I can tell more about the detailing of how the neck is. How the flowers are, how much is the length of it. So I might help that visually impaired individual in terms of telling specificity about how the dress is, what the color is, so that a more better picture is being formed in the mind of that particular individual, and so that one can make a much more informed decision. That is the idea. So basically it connects the visually impaired with the visually sighted, the sighted individuals, it basically builds a connection using a mobile app. Okay. तो हम बोल सकते हैं it's like a matchmaking platform. All right. So these are basically volunteers है ना. ये क्या है? ये हमारे sighted volunteers हैं. और these are the visually impaired people. All right. ठीक है. अब व्हाट कुड बी द बेनिफिट फॉर वॉलंटियर, उस पे भी उन्होंने सोचा है कि भाई अगर कोई वॉलंटियर है अपना समय दे रहा है, यू आर गिविंग योर टाइम एंड एफर्ट टू हेल्प समबडी. वन इज दैट यू आर वॉलंटियरिंग फॉर अ कॉज. तो आप यू डोंट नीड एनीथिंग, यू आर जस्ट डूइंग इट फॉर योर सेटिस्फैक्शन, एंड देर आर पीपल हु will actually do it. But then it's a rare possibility that you get lots and lots of those people and they are available throughout. Okay. So in that case, what you will do is you try to also develop some kind of motivation. So then even if there's somebody who is not that genuinely interested in helping out, but then there is a motivation factor which might, act as a trigger in terms of looping that person and, coming on board on this app and help somebody who is a visually impaired, right? So they are showing that after 50 assets, all volunteer will receive a certificate. You might add some kind of monetization. Monetization could be in terms of money, it could be in terms of cash cards, it could be in terms of coupons. Sorry. Okay. So there could be various factors by which you can trigger monetization, or you can say incentives. That is a better word. Write it better. Hmm? Okay. So while going through their presentation, this was a more, broad feedback that, there are some practical concerns. So their initial idea was that they were working on braille invoicing, and eventually they shifted their gears, they pivoted it towards this matchmaking platform. Okay. So, what are the motivations for beneficiaries? There is live assistance at odd hours. There is assistant in regional languages. You see the value of regional languages. We have so many people from different geographies within different parts of India. They don't understand English. किसी को हिंदी नहीं पता है. कोई ऐसी जगह खड़ा है जहाँ पे चीजें इंग्लिश में लिखी हुई हैं, साइन बोर्ड्स हैं जो समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. So it brings a lot of value. Contextualization, customization. Limit frustrations with AI. So many times AI model works, but कुछ लोग होते हैं जिनको AI नहीं समझ में आता है, मतलब they are not getting the right answer. So then they need somebody who's an individual who kinds of empathize with them and he understands them and then replies back and make genuine friendships. So it is not just about helping somebody, but then you are also building a connection. एक connection built हो रहा है. हो सकता है कि आपने किसी साइटेड वॉलंटियर से बात की, आपको बहुत अच्छा लगा द वे यू बोथ टॉक्ड. सो देयर इज आल्सो सोशल एंगल इन्वॉल्व, एक फ्रेंडशिप भी हो रही है. हो सकता है कि नेक्स्ट टाइम जब आप आए यू माइट रिक्वेस्ट कि प्लीज connect me with that volunteer. He was very understanding, or she was very understanding. She helped me very politely. Even me asking so many questions, that person was very helpful. All right. So you are making friendships, you are making building a connection. You are होता है ना कि when you are physically challenged or you have some kind of impairment, you know the social integration becomes a challenge. And that is where their product could bring that bridge. All right. तो अगर हम वैल्यू प्रोपोजिशन की बात करें, आई थिंक दिस इज अ बेटर स्लाइड. Live assistant at odd hours, regional languages, safety and security, and keeping record of transactions. So it's also recording the conversations or whatever is happening for quality purposes. So there might be certain scenarios where uh, the volunteer is not that polite, so they need to record it so that people who are coming to the application, they go with positive experiences. right? They should not go with negative experiences. And even if there is one odd case, then it should not happen that, you're not able to identify, who's that odd case. So all these things are very important when you are building a solution, and which is going to be live, and which will be used by the masses. So the team worked on designing for accessibility. So they added screen magnifiers. Basically, it's more like a lens, है ना? और जैसे स्क्रीन होगा तो वो इतना बड़ा करके दिखा देगा. So people with low visibility, for them it becomes quite easier to read, in large font size. And then you have text to speech features. You have colorblind mode, customize or invert the colors. So, all these features they have included in their application. And then there was feedback from Professor Rao, and there was also Professor Rupesh. Both shared their insights and feedback about, what could be the other possibilities. And he mentioned a very interesting point, which is point number two. So he said that, one can have an AI based solution, or there can be a human touch, and let the call be taken by the user, instead of they as a designer offering an AI based solution or a human based solution. He said that it is always better that, you keep that option open to the person who is coming in for this particular app. Many times they would want to do things independently, and they don't want to take help from an individual wherein the AI works. In certain cases, people might prefer a human angle, and there could also be scenarios where they would first want to try to do it independently through an AI-based solution. And if they feel that, it is not working, then, in that scenarios, they might reach out to the human-based, interface. So for me, I think this was a very interesting insight and point for the team, that, how you offer solution considering your audience, and giving that flexibility of, uh, how and what could be the ways by which, people would want to engage with your application, right? Okay. And I think this we have already discussed about, volunteer work in return for remuneration. He also said that, many times the product which you design for visually challenged are also used by other people. If you remember, the SMS were basically meant for people who were hard of hearing, and then it came as a functionality which people used it extensively, to text. And even if you see WhatsApp today, it start with this textual, engagement. So he is basically saying that one can make the product more universal. Okay. And this was the case where, what the two major aspects to make them independent and socially integration of them. So by them, we basically means people who are visually challenged or visually impaired. Okay. And then we had Mr. Rupesh, who also had great amount of experience, and he said that instead of looking them as a user, we should also look them from different perspectives. They could be people who are investors, they could be people, so he says considering them as customers rather than people who need help can be different way. So एक होता है एक social angle से कि भाई वो he that person is in trouble and then you are trying to help them. But the moment you shift your lens to a customer, the perspective changes. Okay, and then you see them as customers who have buying power, who have money, and then they are able to, you know, uh, make those purchases. They are able to make those transactions. So So we have probably covered. Let me show you the screen as well. And if you see here, so this was their business thesis. So they were working for an application called See Together, and the idea was that, they were acting as a matchmaking platform wherein visually and blind, individuals were being assisted by sighted volunteers. And so they wanted that it needed to be less dependent on AI driven assistance, which is difficult to comprehend and access. And then they also mentioned about the various competitors. They are there in this field, and how their proposition was different from that. Coming on to our next team, for that we had a mentor called named Mr. Purushottam Kaushik. He had a great amount of experience. He had worked with World Economic Forum, and the kind of richness he brought in terms of giving feedback to all these learners was immense, and that we could actually see from the fact that the team who were project named Spaced, who are making life of office employees more stress free, and making them more happy and satisfied. So this was the team which basically worked on this particular area of making office people's life more stress free and more happier, with the given mentors. So they also prepared a lean canvas model. They identified, what problem they are targeting, what is the solution they are offering, and what are their different customer segments, revenue streams, and cost structure. So initially they were kind of having this idea of there was stress among people in offices due to long working hours, and how they can address them. So they were looking at some kind of a product based solution. But then they face certain challenges, and they realize that okay, probably that might not work in due course, and that is where they pivoted their entire proposition. And then they came up to a solution, sorry, not solution, to a problem where they said that how might we help offices to make their employees work life better and stress free. So that again, this particular moment is in itself a question, if you see in the current live session. So I won't detail much about it, but they had a very different reason for pivoting it from the earlier proposition to the newer proposition. And they showed then what are the different alternatives which are there in the market, which are actually using the same kind of technology like virtual reality, and how they are working, and that is how they were able to compare that how their proposition is different, is unique as compared to the existing alternatives. Okay, so after the presentation, obviously they had this critique and feedback and suggestions kind of around, where Mr. Purushottam asked, what are the top three reasons for stress among the office people? And for that the team replied that, it was primarily about long working hours and people not having a change of space. Usually what happens is that we kind of have been dedicated a seat wherein we work throughout, our lifetime, unless you have a change in position. And then there is, less of a break time, and then there's lots and lots of workload, which, mounts a lot of stress while, working. And then there were further questions about, what could be alternate solutions, and not particularly sticking to the technology which they have decided of using it as VR. And then Professor Chakravarti also asked, what are the creative solutions which they were able to found, and what is their uniqueness while they're bringing in terms of their solutions. So they had this solution more in terms of, a subscription based platform, and not something that you once offer it, you are not able to change it. So once you subscribe it for particular product A, you can also have a subscription for a different product. And then there was another expert, Mr. Chandrasekhar, who had a great experience from the telecommunications sector. And he also raised a few questions which were responded well by the team. And these were some more comments by Purushottamji. I will not get into the detail because we have a set of 10 questions which we need to take it up. Yeah. And so let's go through this slide. I mean, this is their business thesis of the service based project called Spaced. They were trying to find ways to make life for office employees stress free and keeping them satisfied. Uh, it was primarily for people who were working for long hours in the offices, and the idea was to increase the efficiency and productivity. Okay. And then there was a team called Hocus Focus, which were pertaining to the concept of meditation. And they had a very interesting presentation, very visually appealing presentation, where they were trying to engage the audience in a very, very unique way of, utilizing the headset, and then, how to help out in terms of meditation practices. So now this slide in itself is also very interesting because, it talks about the desirability and the need factors, through a cross section of a pastry. So there is this bread, which is the critical features which are need to be there. Then they had icing, which is not crucial but valuable. And then finally, cherry, which is complementary features. Good to have. Okay, so this is how they describe their presentation, and for different aspects of visual, physical, and sensory, they had all these different layouts. So even if you're working on something like that, I think it's a great tabulated form of data by which you can probably prioritize the different features in terms of, whether it is visual features, physical features, or sensory features. So this is their product. It's a headgear which is targeted with the micro vibration to create tactile sensations for better focus during the meditation. This is how, they had proposed that it would be made of, composed of. And then they had certain future prospects that, it will be having a range of products. Eventually they will also get into, the zones of having Zen cafes, and then they can have, clinical applications of those particular things. So again, there were further comments by the expert, right from, whether this name is striking the right chord or they should rethink on the game. And then he also suggested that, one should never go cheap on electronics because the return and servicing cost of product is very high. And if that not happens, that, a very negative image is formed in the market when you do not, or when you are not able to provide the kind of service which the people are expecting you from. Okay, so before we continue with this group of Maverick, let's take a 2 minute break, and we'll, we continue. So we'll be pausing for 2 minutes, and we'll again start. So let's try to continue this session once again. I've got two learners right now, Ms. Bhavna and Professor Somdatta Banerjee. Hello, ma'am. I would just like to hear
Hello,
from you. I'm probably
good
seeing you
evening.
for the first time. So if you can please share your introduction.
Okay, I am Professor Somdatta from Nalsar University. I may have reached out to you on LinkedIn. If I haven't, I will do so after this session. But I did check your profile.
Okay.
I am currently a student at IIT Kharagpur. I am doing my PhD from here. Thank you.
So, ma'am, would you like to tell what area you are working on in your PhD as of now?
My area is entrepreneurship, and I teach entrepreneurship at Nalsar University in Hyderabad, which is
Nice.
Telangana State University. And I teach some other subjects like PPM, and design thinking, and a little bit of innovation. But my PhD thesis is wholeheartedly focused on uh, women entrepreneurship, women empowerment, if I can. I'll touch on that. I have identified some areas in and around this area, in and around Kharagpur. But I have not yet reached that stage in my research. I'm a new researcher. So I'm doing this to enhance my I have a 18-year-old startup of my own. So I wanted to get the theoretical knowledge. I do have the practical knowledge, if I can say that. In addition, another very interesting thing, DGM is a dear friend of mine, Deepak John Matthew. On this, I see his face, and Nakul is a neighbor, Professor Nakul, because my husband is a professor at IIT Hyderabad, and I'm a resident. I have been a resident of IIT Hyderabad for the last 14 years. And also, Professor Surya was, I reported to him, I took care of the incubation center for 2 years, ITIC Foundation, IIT
Right,
Hyderabad.
right, right.
Uh, in fact, I got in about 20 crore worth of schemes. Meiti Tide 2 was mine. I wrote them, not mine, as in I
Yeah,
wrote
yes,
the
yes.
proposal, which got us the grant. And then Nidhi Prayas,
Hmm.
got them. I know I'm able, be able very well. Those guys, I have been, I had a portfolio of 65 odd companies at one point, and they were one of them. CFHE is right next door. So I have, it's very interesting for me to professionally learn these things where I have practically lived that life. So I'm very excited to be here, and I'm sorry that I could not be because there's a tremendous workload in IIT Kharagpur. I'm unable to join your classes, but I'm trying my best to do this, and hopefully I can reach out to you sometime and interact further.
Sure, ma'am.
I would love
Sure.
to do that.
So thanks a lot for joining in. I have just a couple of questions. So
Certainly.
yeah, so the you are particularly attending these sessions primarily because your area of PhD is around that, or you are also doing it for a certification perspective.
I have to do. IIT Kharagpur has started a mandatory self-study requirement from this semester.
Okay.
So I will be perhaps doing one more next semester. Hmm. And VG has a lovely lineup of coursework, but they don't have an entrepreneurship, as a topic. That I'm learning OBHR, marketing, accounting, typical MBA stuff, which I am not interested. I already have done all that, but so I'm very happy to be doing this course. Your other question.
So, ma'am, so you are able to complete your coursework, or this is your phase where you are completing the coursework?
No, no, yes, I am completing my coursework now, this semester and next semester, and then I'll officially start, although officially start on my thesis, as in my PhD research work. But I have already done some initial groundwork because I'm scared that I'll be running late and all. But yeah,
So, ma'am, you are
if I'm
doing
not
it as a
wrong,
full time or as a part time there?
this is a sponsored category.
Okay.
So I don't know how to categorize. I mean, I won't be here a resident for a long time. I'll be here after till 1 year, and then I'll be back to
Hyderabad.
um, Hyderabad. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Also, ma'am, you mentioned that you have already, matlab, you have had a startup. So I would
Yes.
like to know, I mean, what was it about and how was your experience and journey? I mean, because the kind of richness you will bring from that experience, it will be much more,
Uh,
helpful for all of us.
Uh, it is a it is quite a small startup. I did my MBA from US, and at that time we had the 2008, 2007, 2008. During that time, we had the recession in US, and I was not able to quickly get a job and have a company sponsor my H-1B visa. So at that time, I just decided I'll do the next best thing. At that time, that was my option, which I launched a small business. And when my husband moved to India, I just changed the company structure and brought it to India. It is fairly successful. It is small because I had limitations of. I didn't want it to become too big and too cumbersome because then the quality of my processes would go down. So I kept it nice and tight and small and manageable. My thing was I wanted to have strict control on the processes, and the quality is something I never compromised on. So, which is why I did not grow it to a scale where I could have made more money, perhaps. There is a U curve where we with every as we go proceed with increase um, in growth of a company, your total cost per unit goes down, but eventually it goes up again, eventually, because you end up like if I would have increased, gotten bigger, then I would have had to invest in security because my product is something very unique. My product is gemstones. So I would need CC cameras everywhere, I would have needed a security guard. I would have had to have employ a female security guard to do frisking and stuff like that. So, because what happens if they take a small ruby in their undergarments and leave the premises of the factory? What will I do? I can't run a thing like that. And also, mine was focused to run a women based, like
Women
I
led.
gave the option to my employees. First of all, I employed only women who were
Only
qualified. Women
women. Okay.
women so who were educated but due to their family or health reasons were forced to quit their job and were not in a position to do a 9 to 5 typical setup. So I gave them that option of doing any 4 hours of their choice. So typically they chose something like say from 11 to 3 or something like that with a break. And I kept it nice and tight and gave them that flexibility. I treated them right, gave them the AC and everything. So I got gave them good and a safe environment to work, and I gave them a fairly lavish salary for the 4 hours that they worked. So I was still making my money. I was still happy, and my employees were very happy. So because they had small children, or they were not able to do the traditional 8-hour shift, plus going to from going and coming back to work many a times and coming and taking care of small children who were back from school would be a problem. Leaving traditional work setup, say 3 o'clock, children come home, or 3:30
Right.
they come home. So that was difficult for many of them. So in spite of having, say, an MBA or a graduation degree, these women were unable to find a traditional job. So I
Yes.
found that in my local area, local community, I was able to find that that was a gap which I could address, my company could address. So I just employed those guys. So eventually, I moved from US to India, and I was able to, implement some of my MBA thought processes into my classroom thought processes into my business, and I think I did fairly well. Although right now it's on pause because I'm here in IIT Kharagpur and not there. Um, if you would like to check it up, but the name of my company is Som Studio. It's a small export setup for gemstone, drilled
Is it
gemstones.
still working?
Uh, it's on pause right now because I'm here and unable to
Right,
supervise. But
right,
yes, once I go back to Hyderabad, I do want. I haven't closed it, and also during COVID, it was affected because I was not able to
right.
address the shipping and logistics issues. I ship every country in the world, and
And what the kind of products you were making there?
so I had two components. One is the just the raw materials, which is raw materials for other. So it is essentially a B2B. I was selling to other jewelry makers, primarily in the US, although everywhere else in the world were also there. But my primary market is US. And then so these people would take my gemstone beads and make jewelry and sell them on platforms like Etsy, if you have heard of that. ETSY, Etsy. It's just another platform like Amazon, and you can sign up as a vendor on the Amazon, not on Amazon, on Etsy, and then sell. And they give a fairly liberal. They take a commission, but it's fairly low in comparison. So Amazon wanted 40% of my as commissions for the same business model, which is why I am a failure in India and a success abroad. So my local domestic market I could not tap because I could not keep up with the fees. I don't keep that much of a margin, although it could
So
be.
how much the HC you're talking about is charging you?
Etsy is charging me just 3%.
Oh, there's a huge difference, huh?
Yes. Yes.
More
So this
than
is
10
where they
times.
win, and Amazon lose out because they got greedy. I mean, I cannot, as a vendor, as a seller, I cannot put the markup of 40% on any item and compete with China because China does it cheap. So, and in an international market, not a domestic market, and in India, the concept is if they have say 5,000 rupees, they would rather buy gold. Nobody buys fake jewelry, or as they call it, junk jewelry. It is not junk jewelry, it is gemstone and 925 sterling silver. So, but I don't do gold because then the cost of my inventory goes very high, and I'm unable to safely store it. I haven't explored that area at all, and I don't know where to get raw materials. As in, I don't know where to get gold wire or bar gold. I'm sure there is a process, just that with my level of expertise, I was not able to find it. So I got some training in US, just a class in US on wire jewelry, and I am also an artisan. I can also make jewelry myself, but it's a time
Yes,
consuming work, and the
yes, yes.
margin is not as much. The
Right.
margin is the money is in the buying in bulk and selling in
Selling
per
it.
bead. So there I make my money. So that is my cash cow. And my question mark is is the jewelry business. Now, jewelry is actually extremely saturated. If you just go on Amazon and you see it as a market, you'll see in that 500 range, you will see like everybody is just selling 200, 300. You see so many pieces of jewelry, and which is some of them are quite pretty. And young girls, they like to wear jewelry in not necessarily made with gemstones and silver, real silver. So I was not able to target that market in India, although eventually I would like to, because Indian population, we have a like wonderful population, which
Yeah.
I would like that slice of pie if possible. But yeah, any other questions? I would like to hear from Bhavna as well. I'm doing all the talking.
Yeah, one more question. So, I mean, you have had such a great experience and you are doing great. So now doing PhD is another big decision. It requires coming out of a comfort zone and then, going again into the practice of, learning. How did you make that decision?
I'm struggling and crying every day. You are a PhD yourself, aren't you? Huh?
Yes.
Ah, there you go. I knew it. No, the thing is, no, the thing is, I was a very good student at one point of time, but right now, to be honest, I'm old and rusty, and and not doing very well in my classes. Very embarrassed to say that on camera, as in on, but on record. But this is a problem that with seniority, you gain the expertise and the experience from life.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
my practically, if I do a job or a business, I know I will excel.
Yes,
I do.
yes.
I'm very good, fairly good with operations. I'm very good with end-to-end process improvements and changes. I have had that work experience with GE. I love that those kind of processes and matrices, and I understand that. I love it. But in the classroom, things change. You have to go and sit and take an exam and recall in that 2 hour or 3 hour gap that what you have. And professors here in IIT Kharagpur, they are horribly tough. They are very, very tough, and they'll teach a little bit in class and then ask you a very complex question. And I loved him, and but I hate the process, and I'm like dying to just finish up and run away. But they are lovely people, to be honest. But just that I'm facing challenges myself, as in I'm crying every day. Is that when am I going to do this? And but it's a process; it has to be done. So just going through it.
So now
Thank you
you
for
got
your.
used to saying sir and ma'am to all the professors, or was it a challenge?
Yeah, I get called ma'am also,
Okay.
and there is little bit of minor sometimes. Some professors treat me marginally better, as in डांट उतना नहीं मिलता है जितने बाकी लोगों को मिलता है. But they are very strict when it comes to grading. They are very, very strict when it comes to the like they'll judge you correctly, as in you will not get any leverage because you are a faculty from some other place. No, 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 nothing
Okay,
like that.
okay,
You're a
okay,
student
okay.
here, that's it.
Treating everybody at par, huh?
Yes, yes, that they do. Because people come from QIP as well, from other, like there are a couple of other senior guys as well, and people come from the industry as well. So there are vice presidents of companies. They also come for, for some or the other way of some category of doing PhD. And I think IIT Kharagpur is one of the few IITs which give this option. Otherwise, people like me would not have
Mm,
gotten
mm.
this opportunity. My only other option is to go through a regular MBA program. Like I tried in, say, IIM Bangalore offers this a PhD in entrepreneurship, but it is a regular 5 year residential program. So I would be away from my family and my children
Right.
for 5 years, which is not ideal in my situation.
Mm, mm. That's true. That's true. So it was great having you here. I mean, we missed you all through our 11 weeks. And now we have a
Yes,
gem
I'm really
coming in the
sorry.
last
I've
two
been doing
weeks.
it online. I've been doing it online. But a quick question: how many assignments do I need to finish? I didn't know that was mandatory. So initially, I just took it a little lightly, and now I'm scared that मुझे certificate नहीं मिलेगा. But I did sign up for the exam on the 28th of October. So I'll
Okay.
be writing the exam.
Yes,
But can
yes.
you tell me how many assignments are
Uh, so
mandatory?
basically, in total, for every week, there is an assignment. So there are 12 weeks of content. So there are 12 assignments, each having 10
Right.
questions. Now, the kind of evaluation process is that we have, say, for example, if the total marks is 100, so 25% of mark comes from the internal assessment. And for that, they take best 8 assignments out of 12.
Eight.
But the catch here is that every assignment has a deadline. So it's not that if you start attempting the assignments today, you'll be allowed to attempt all the previous 10. So probably now if you onboard and you try to attempt the assignments, you might be able to access only week 11 and week 12.
Right, right, right.
Yes, yes. Previously, the deadlines are over for the previous assignments.
Right.
So
Okay.
I'm afraid, I mean, from a certificate point of view, that I think could be a challenge. But you can explore your NPTEL platform and you can see if you know the deadlines are open for you. But as per my understanding, so every assignment has a one week timeline, and within that you have to complete the that assignment.
Yes. Yes, yes, I understand.
Okay.
Actually, we follow in IIT Kharagpur, my classmates and I, we diligently follow SWAYAM and NPTEL because many of our professors, because of a lack of time, they rush through the class or they teach at a pace where we are unable to grasp. We go
That's
back,
true.
the same professors teach these courses online. It's an incredible program. I cannot talk enough positive things about it. I mean, please do give this feedback to the relevant people that students are actually going and learning, genuinely learning. Like we have ethics, we have strategy by Sanjeev Chaudhary, we have ethics by Aradhana Malik. All these professors, they are from IIT Kharagpur. The same professors are teaching us in class, and many a times we use your curriculum, we access your videos and actually do our studies, because sometimes we need to clarify a certain angle ki kya class mein, and then let me follow it up with a video. It is incredible. I cannot tell you how helpful it has been, because my classmates use it, I use it, we all use it on a daily basis. And not only the platform but also the YouTube videos also. And I have actually personally used your YouTube videos, which are posted later on. I have used them. So this when things will be posted, the sessions, the other sessions, which are posted online, I have been able to access it later and go through them later on.
That's great. That's great to hear, ma'am. Thank you so much for your feedback as well. And
Yes.
we'll make it a point that the NPTEL team gets the due credit for putting in so much of effort in uploading all these sessions and assignments.
Yes.
So basically, we started the session at 5 o'clock, and initially in the few slides, I actually talked about all these marking and certification criterias. So, and we also got introduction from Bhavna as well. So, Bhavna, if you are there and you would like to share a few things, probably, we are there to hear from you if you're there.
Yes, sir. Actually, I'm there, but I told you I have a small kid, so he's actually back from his daycare. So a lot of disturbance
So
is there, but
today is
I'm
a
still.
very great day because we are having two women entrepreneurs who had a great experience, and they both are here today.
But I heard Professor,
Somdatta ma'am.
yeah, ma'am, brief um journey. So it's very inspiring, ma'am, and I, I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much. I will connect with both of you on LinkedIn. Huh? This is lovely. Thank you very much.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
great.
sure.
So let's continue our session. So basically, like I've said that in these sessions, we have a set of 10 questions which kind of help one to attempt the weekly assignments. So I'll just quickly rush through the remaining presentation because we have just half an hour left. So there were few other teams for which the feedback were given by Professor Dinesh, Professor Nakul, Professor Deepak as well. And these teams were like Maverick project, wherein they were basically designing a board game for kids who had issues in terms of understanding of comprehension. So their idea was completely different from how to get away from the digital gaming thing and how to get back into the physical aspect of gaming. So they presented their idea and they got a feedback in terms of how they can improvise their approach in terms of business model. This was followed by the feedback from Professor Anuradha and Professor Peer, who gave feedback to the team Minimart, which were basically trying to uh, come up with a solution, how to make kids, love maths, enjoy maths by making it much more fun, by making it, transform in a game itself. So they also got a lot of feedback in terms of, where are the lacunas, where are the gaps which they can fulfill, which they can address so that, their proposition becomes much more robust. Okay, so let us start with the set of 10 questions. So the first question is, according to Professor PVM Rao, what are the major aspects to consider while addressing the needs of visually challenged? So the options are independence, color choices, social integration, and language learning. So you can also make your suggestions, what could be the right answer, and we'll see, what is actually the right answer for this question. What, according to Professor Rao, are the major aspects to consider while addressing the needs of visually challenged? तो दो प्रमुख बातें क्या हैं जिनको हमें ध्यान में रखना है while we are addressing जो दृष्टिबाधित लोग होते हैं उनके लिए हमें दो एस्पेक्ट्स क्या हैं वो इम्पोर्टेंट एस्पेक्ट्स एनी सजेशंस एनी गेसेस Okay, so let me show you the content. So Professor Rao actually went across their entire pitch, entire business propositions, and he made certain comments. So, like I discussed about, point two, which was about, whether people would want to have a human interface or an AI based interface, or probably a mix of them. So he suggested that instead of you giving them as an option, it should be a preference which the user decides that, probably I would want to go for an AI based, interface or feedback or a human based, right? Now, likewise, if you see, there were few more feedbacks. For example, we usually look at one use case, but when you interact with more people, you realize that many more use cases are suitable. So that is where they said, customer discovery is very important. How you reach out to customers, how you identify, what are the different users for your particular proposition. Another statement was very critical, which says that two major aspects to make them independent and to socially integrate them. This is something which we also discussed initially, that uh, social integration of visually impaired or physically challenged people are very very difficult, because they are not well adaptive in the society because of a number of reasons. And that is where, if you are offering a solution, whether it is a technology solution or a product based solution, if it can help them integrate themselves in the social fabric, it will be a great major achievement for them. So if you see the answer to this question, the major aspects to consider while addressing the needs of visually challenged, the correct answers are independence and social integration. Okay, we'll move to our next question. According to Dr. Rupesh, what was his advice to the team sit together working to address the needs of visually challenged? So let me tell you, See Together was basically the kind of a matchmaking platform where they were able to connect the visually challenged with the sighted volunteers. All right. So this was the app which was basically connecting the two major user group, the visually challenged and the sighted volunteers. So whenever there was a requirement, the visually challenged would actually utilize the application, and anybody who was live as a volunteer would be connected to the app, and they would project the camera, and the sighted volunteer role would be to read out what is there in front of them, so that they are able to make a much informed decision. Okay, so that was the entire proposition in a very short and a brief way of see together. Okay, so the options are looking at visually challenged as investors, looking them as employers, looking them as customers and potential buyers, and looking at the visually challenged as volunteers. So these are the options, and just have a look at it and just suggest if what could be the right answer. So again, it's a multi-select question, so there will be more than one correct answer. Any suggestions, any guesses?
Sir, C.
Okay, so we have got uh, one opinion, which is C. Okay, anyone else?
Sir, it can be multiple, right?
Right, right. It is multiple. So you're saying one option as C. Okay,
Maybe B. I'm not sure.
maybe
B, B.
D for duck, huh?
No, B, second option, B.
Oh, oh, all right, all right. So Bhavna suggested two of them. Okay. So let's try to see the content recap, and probably we'll be able to, understand this question and the answer of this question in a much better way. Okay. So Professor Rupesh said that, there were around 12 million visually impaired people in that time. And having such a large number of people, they can themselves become a pool of customers who have buying power. Considering them as customers rather than people who need help can be different way of looking. So basically he was trying to say that instead of looking them as people who need help, who need care, I think it is important for the people who are working as a startup and working for solutions to this user group, they need to see them as customers. The moment you see them as customers, the entire perspective changes. Right. So then, there are people who are visually impaired, but then they also have buying power. They sometimes have a lot of money, which they can actually invest, but then there are no solutions by which, they are made aware of that. Okay, this is a great startup idea, which wherein, you can, invest your money in. So basically, if you see the correct answers are which looking visually challenged as investors and looking at them as customers and potential buyers. So, Bhavna, you are partially correct. So, C is the correct answer along with answer A. Okay, let's go to the third question. The question says the team of Project Maverick mentioned about Magda Gerber's philosophy for children as RIE, which is so basically we are looking at the full form of RIE. The options you have in front of you are respect for infant education, resources for infant educators, rise of entrepreneurship, rethink the incubation and entrepreneurship. Any guesses? The philosophy for children, RIE. So let me share the complementing screen. Now, this was shared by the Maverick team, and the opportunity they were able to find out was, how they can improve the academic performance, the motivation and confidence, and to manage themselves. This is all with respect to kids. Okay. Now, if you see the principles of Magda, philosophy for children was known as RIE, which is Resources for Infant Educators. Now let's try and read out this particular paragraph, and we'll see how it is basically creating a lot of value. The educaring approach believes parents and caretakers must have respect for infants and trust that they are natural inventors, explorers, and self learners. Gerber says that infants should be viewed and spoken to in ways that allow them to become active participants of their daily lives. In her opinion, infants should be left to explore safe environment with little adult interaction. Now, what's happening today is that the moment we have an infant within our homes, we become uh, you know overindulged in terms of गिर ना जाए, चोट ना लग जाए, फैला ना दे, will create a mess, it will become dirtier, and all this basically hinders their exploration stage. All this hinders their way of learning, their way of interacting with stuff, their way of gaining knowledge from whatever they are seeing around. So the principle says that this approach believes that parents and caretakers, especially, they need to have respect for infants and trust that they are natural inventors, है ना? वो खुद एक natural explorer हैं. They will be able to learn only when they are able to explore by themselves. The moment we handhold things, the moment we become extra, safe for them. I mean, obviously, being a parent, we need to be, caring them in terms of, what they are doing. We need to keep a watch. But that is what she's referring that, we need to have a minimal or a little adult interaction. And we need to give a lot of space to them to, self-explore, self-learn. And that is what is important. Okay. So the correct answer is resources for infant educators. That's one correct answer. All right. I think, I'm also a parent and I'm also a small child. And, when I read about this, I was not previously aware of this. But when I read about this, I kind of realized that, yes, at times we become over scared, when they, stumble upon or when they climb on certain things which are not that stable. And, obviously as a parent, you need to have that eye, but then we also need to provide that kind of space for them to explore, make the floor dirty, because this is the age where they are learning, they are exploring, they are understanding materials, they are understanding textures, they are understanding the volumes, shapes and forms. And if we try to restrict that, obviously the learning is getting hampered. So in one of these sessions only, and one of the professors was saying that the entire education system is being built in a way that everything is become standardized. Everybody is made to wear the same uniform, everybody is studying the same subjects, everybody is aiming for the same kind of marks and grading. So it is a challenge in itself, how to bring out the uniqueness among child. Okay, so this is a very critical stage and probably a great learning for me as well and for all the young parents, you know that we need to give them sufficient amount of space, obviously with supervision and little and minimal interventions. Great. So we come to our fourth question. As discussed in the C together project in lecture say 26th, which among these are some of the practical concerns involved in text to braille methods as raised by Professor Rao? So in this particular section, I mean, we discussed about See Together, which was basically an app which is connecting the visually challenged along with the sighted volunteers. Okay. So what are the concerns involved in text to braille methods? So Professor Rao was talking about, there are various challenges. So there are many solutions which have come up, which kind of translate from text to braille methods. So what are those challenges? So whether they are physical barriers, there is an issue with the distribution of the product, or there are very few incentives for the shopkeepers, or there is a degradation of physical markings. These are the options, and you can make your guesses. Okay, I think I've shown the answer. So let me tell you the answer. The answer is very few incentives for the shopkeepers to buy such products, because even people are not in enough numbers to buy this. And another reason for that is that you don't have enough people uh, who are offering such products. So which is basically, we are talking about the shopkeepers. So since they are not getting any incentive for keeping this, obviously they don't keep these products. And then there is a degradation of physical markings. So braille products need to be very, they have these small dots. If you have seen any braille script, these are raised and popped up dots by which visually impaired or visually challenged experiences it through the fingers, the touch of fingers, and they try to comprehend what is being written. So many times these physical markings get degraded, and so interpreting them becomes a challenge, right? So these are the two challenges which Professor Rao has talked about. Okay. So question 5. For the question raised by Professor Kaushik on the top 3 reasons for stress among office employees, what was the response by the team spaced? This we have discussed in this particular live session. It was one of the content recaps which we had shown. प्रोफेसर कौशिक के अनुसार जब उन्होंने प्रश्न किया था कि वो 3 प्रमुख कारण क्या है ऑफिस जो गोअर्स हैं, जो ऑफिस में कार्य कर रहे हैं, उनमें स्ट्रेस का. So these options are long working hours, people not having change of space, less breaks time, and no time for me. So just try to understand the options and what could be the right answer. I mean, any guesses are invited. Okay, so let's take a view at the content recap. So when he raised the question, the team answered that there are four root causes, and these are you know long working hours. There is not much of a change of space, so ideally you are working at a particular desk and a chair setup. It's obviously given to you, and for a long period of time you are actually sitting there. Unless there is a change in designation, or there is a office meeting. Otherwise, majorly you will be sitting in the same space, and you have very less break time, and you have got a huge workload. So if you see, these are the top 3 answers which are mentioned. So the correct answers are A, B, and C. Okay, let's proceed further. The project Mini Mart is about Dash, which allows kids to enjoy Dash by creating real-time scenario fit works in daily life. So there are first fill in the blank and there is a second fill in the blank. And let me just share a couple of hints as well. So, for example, the first is option between these two, and second is an option between these two. So there was a group of students who had the project name called Mini Mart. So they were working on a dash game. So whether it was a board game or mobile game, to enjoy a subject. What was this subject? So they used a very interesting term. They used that, kids, they have a fear of this subject, and they said it was maths anxiety. Okay, so the correct answer is that maths is the subject which they want the kids to enjoy through a board game. Okay, let me just read it out. Minimart allows kids to enjoy maths by creating real-time scenario of how math works in everyday life. Okay, so this is the game which they have proposed. They are trying to teach profit and loss, and how do you make purchases, how do you buy things, what is the amount left. So that is the kind of fun and engagement they are trying to integrate with the gaming. Helping students enjoy maths by removing the pressure of formulas and numbers, creating real-time scenarios which indirectly shows how we apply math in real world. Now that is very important. See, in everyday life, unless we are able to tell students that this is a formula or this is how things will be posed in front of you in real life scenarios, and that is where these things are important to learn. The moment they get a realization that in day-to-day work, in day-to-day life and interaction, where we are making purchases, we are doing a lot of transactions, this thing which we are learning, which these kids are learning, are helping. The moment that realization is there, they will start engaging with all these formulas and methods. Okay, so that was a very interesting bridge that they were trying to build in. Although there are many games which have come, which are addressing these particular need of how we learn by doing and by having fun. Okay, so the correct answers are board game and maths or mathematics. Great. We come to our seventh question. As mentioned during the Hocus Pocus project. Okay. Name is quite funny. Focus, focus. So let me just remind you, it was about the meditation, guided meditation kind of experience which they were offering using a headgear. Okay. So these are the clues. As mentioned during the Hocus Pocus project of discussion of module 1, why is it advisable to never go cheap on electronics as per Professor Kaushik? The options are: manufacturer and production cost of the product may increase. The return and servicing cost of product in B2C business to consumer model is very high. The product may not be allowed to use as per government standards. The product may yield negative references and reviews from the customers, which may kill the brand name. Okay, so just give a thought. Hocus Pocus project, the one which was about headgear and meditation. Okay, let's go to the content recap. So Professor Purushottam Kaushik, he shared a lot of suggestions, including having a long-term vision, rethinking on the name itself, because Hocus Pocus generates a different feel to it. When we are trying to do something about meditation and having a focus, the terms may kind of generate different feelings and emotions. Also, he said that we should never go Let me highlight it. Should never go cheap on electronics because the return and servicing cost of a product in a distributed B2C model is high, which can kill the product. Okay. So he mentions this, this is a very important aspect, that never go cheap on electronics because the return and servicing cost of products and business to consumer model is very high and which can kill the product. Okay. And if you're not able to provide that kind of service and offering, what will happen? A lot of negative, comments and a lot of negative publicity will happen, which will anyways kill the brand. So even if you go today, you try to buy something from Amazon, you first try to, most of us try to read the reviews, what did the people who have purchased it in past have, posted comments about the product. And a lot of our decision making is basically dependent on, how people are reacting to a particular product. Right. So if you see from this perspective, the correct answers are return and servicing cost, and then D. The product may yield negative references and reviews, which may kill the brand. All right. Okay. Let's come to our eighth question. Referring to module 1, which among these are some important insights given by Professor Nakul as discussed in the Maverick project by Team 4? To accommodate design to ensure that it adds value to the existing gameplay. The same idea can be pivoted where the game can be made useful. To accommodate the right kind of business pitch and implement strategies, and to accommodate right kind of game to the right age group, which instills their motor, cognitive, and analytical skills. So again, if you have not gone through the content and lecture, it will be very hard, to you come up with a solution of this kind of a question. But to help you all, this is the content recap. Now, if you see one by one, the answers are there. If you go through the content. So, say for example, he says, if you are substituting the existing game, then there is already much competition in the market. How would you define opportunity? If you're looking at complementing the existing game, then you have to accommodate your design to ensure that it adds value to the existing gameplay. You have to accommodate the right kind of game to the age group which instills motor, cognitive, and analytical skills. It's a very crowded market. There are main model, subscription, and ownership model. You have to see which options are there and what is the problem you're trying to cater to. And then he said that there should be an array of games, not just one. So even if you see today, most of these games, first of all, they have stages. You complete one stage, you go to the next stage. And when somebody is completely bored of, crossing all the stages, you need to have another set of games. Okay. So that is what he suggests. Instead of having just one game, you need to have array of games. And rethink your target market was a comment. Same idea can be pivoted where the game can be made useful for special kids. Okay. Now, from now, this thing, if you see, adding value to the existing gameplay, useful for special kids and their motor and cognitive skills. So you have got gameplay, you've got pivoted where the game can be made useful for special kids, and then finally instilling the motor, cognitive, and analytical abilities. All right. Great. So now we come to our second last question. As discussed by Professor Narasimha in the Minimart project, for a product to be successful, it has to meet the following factors. And what are they? It has to be disruptive, it has to be relevant, it has to be innovative, or it has to be differentiated. So if you have not gone through the content, probably each of them would appear a very correct answer. That, it has to be disruptive, it has to be relevant, it has to be innovative, it has to be differentiated. But here we are talking in the context of Minimart project. Okay. If you see the Minimart project, yes, it is about making maths fun. Right? It is about maths. So again, let's see the content recap. Professor Anuradha says, let us focus on, what we are trying to find out the answer of. She gave a lot of insights. think about who's your pinpoint customer and try to focus on that. Okay. And now for this particular question, let's read out point number 7. For a product to be successful, it has to be relevant and differentiated, right? Your product is very relevant in the current scenario, but rethink if your product is differentiated. So she says that, it is relevant because it strikes the chord that a lot of kids have a fear of maths and, understanding mathematics, learning mathematics. So that is where the product is very relevant. But she says that, how it is differentiated is something which is not that clear, as maths itself is very wide and you should map the math syllabi and then arrive at. So they were basically having some kind of game which was pertaining to an age group of 4 to 12. And then, what she suggested was that instead of coming up with just a game, try to map it with the content curriculum or the syllabus of the game, and then try to, develop a game according to it. So it is not just one game which only teaches profit and loss, but what about the other principles? What about the other theorems and the phenomena? Right. So that is where, you need to think of a lot of solutions. Right. So from that perspective, the correct answer is it has to be relevant and it has to be differentiated. See, point number 7, relevant and differentiated. All right. Coming to our last question. The question is, complete the following sentence as mentioned by Professor Narsim, referring to the mini mart project. Again, the same board game. The solution of your product will flow from dash the customer segment, which will rise from more research and understanding, defining, pivoting, pinpointing, and validating. Let's look at the content recap. If you see here, we're talking about pinpointing customers. So correct answer is pinpointing. All right. Great. So we have completed our set of 10 questions. Let me just quickly go through the questions by discussion forum. We have already discussed these questions. Let me focus on the very last question, which was question number 8, which was about having a wrong answer key for question 1 in week 9. So this was question about the germination stage and what includes a part of germination stage. So there were options pertaining to sustaining a startup and ideation to prototype, which were not a part of germination stage. However, they were being assessed to be the correct answer, right? So this question has been raised with the NPTEL team, and I am in loop with the entire mail chain, which is trying to resolve this particular thing. So the correct answers are pertaining to this only, and soon we'll be getting a official information about reevaluation and whether how the marking will be given for this particular questions for reworking and reassessment. Okay, so with that we end our session for today, and it's been a great journey, and I really thank our participants of today, Professor Somdat Banerjee ma'am and Ms. Bhavna, for being there, for sharing their stories, and we had a lot of learnings from them, and I wish them luck in their studies and their current endeavors. Thanks a lot for joining.
Thank you very much.
Great. So see you. Have a great weekend, and we'll be meeting next week for our last session on week 12. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Good.